And welcome once again to another episode of the Horizon Roundtable. I am Bob McDonald, and you can find me at Bob McDonald on Twitter. And joining me, of course, is Jimmy Lemke.
Hello, everybody.
Jimmy Lemke. Jimmy, of course, is on Twitter at PantherU, and you can follow the podcast on Twitter as well at Horizon Round T and RT. And Jimmy, wow, it seems like it's been a while since both of us have been on together.
Yeah, I think it's been at least like about a month or so.
I think so too. I do believe so.
Finally.
Yeah. So, but we're back. We're back together.
Yes, we are.
And good timing too, because in a couple of weeks we will not be together because our teams suck.
Well, we won't be at the Horizon League tournament, that's for sure.
We absolutely will not be at the Horizon League tournament because Cleveland State was officially eliminated from the Horizon League tournament, and by virtue of losing to IUPUI, so too is Milwaukee, mostly because everybody else owns at least one or two tiebreakers on Milwaukee, so they could win out in this. Yeah, it's not going to happen. So,
well, I mean, we have 3 games left, and we have to pick up 3 games. So, yeah, it's not happening.
No, it is absolutely not happening. So, Matt Dudek, Carrick Jones, get ready, guys.
Yeah, I was going to say, we're definitely not going to have Milwaukee, Cleveland State hosting the Horizon League roundtable right before 8 teams that aren't Milwaukee or Cleveland State or at the conference.
Well, actually, it'll probably be what I'm thinking is it'll probably be like after the first round games happen, because the first round games happen, I think, on the 8th, and then so. And they can sit there and complain about whether or not their teams won or not in the first round, and whatever. Or they can just it's Carrick and Matt. They can just sit there for 45 minutes and snipe at each other. It'll be entertaining.
Be pissed.
Yeah, well, have fun with that, guys. I actually did want to talk a little bit about what you said last episode about Northern Kentucky, but we'll get into that a little bit later, mostly because of the fact that Northern Kentucky, Wright State is at the top of the Horizon League standings. They are at the top of the Horizon League standings, and they made a statement this week. They basically crushed both Cleveland State and Youngstown State. I mean, it was not pretty for either of those teams going into the Nutter Center. It's
a statement. You guys suck just like we thought you did.
Yes. Meanwhile, Northern Kentucky had struggled against Youngstown State, and Youngstown State lost Darius Quisenberry in that game, so I can't even imagine what would have happened if he'd have stayed healthy. And then Cleveland State, I don't know where this Cleveland State team, it shows up occasionally, but it didn't show up in the entire month of January, so I don't know where this team came from. I would be more than happy to have this team come back a little bit more next year, but Cleveland State went into the BB&T Arena, where Northern Kentucky has not lost in about a year, I want to say. They haven't lost in a year, and Cleveland State won pretty handily.
We call them trap games. I mean, we've all called them trap games.
And they certainly fell into that trap.
You play a team you expect to win, you don't, you screw up, and you end up losing it.
So,
it happens. And usually it happens in the Horizon League. Yeah, usually it happens at the tournament.
Yeah. So, get it out of the way now. You don't want to have this sort of thing happen in Detroit, because, so.
In fact, I would say that Northern Kentucky losing to Cleveland State bodes well for them in the Horizon League tournament, because that means they did get their disappointment out of the way, and now they will not take any game for granted from here on out.
Well, you could have also said that. Well, you could have also said that when they played Wright State and lost. So.
Yeah, but I don't think Wright State beating them was. I don't think Wright State snuck up on them.
No,
Cleveland State snuck up on them.
Cleveland State sneaks up on everybody because Cleveland State was completely horrendous for an entire month and a half.
Yeah,
and
I'm just saying,
all of a sudden they just magically reappeared out of nowhere.
Northern Kentucky looks at them as exact rivals. They are,
and they are.
So they gotta, take them on. And Wright State was just a better team.
Yeah, and Wright State continues to be the better team too.
It's a program that through coaching changes, through everything, they support the program, and they have players that will always put together wins for them. Loudon Love is a classic Wright State player.
He is. He absolutely is.
They've got those guys.
Yeah, and it's interesting because they still have that. I mean, I looked at their starting lineup, and they got all of these seniors. They've got Vest, they've got Ernsthausen, they got Hughes, and then you have this kind of underlying core that's kind of been the production for them in Love and Cole Gentry and Billy Wampler coming off the bench. So it's interesting that they have that kind of dynamic, and it's worked out really well for them to this point in the season. I mean, honestly, when they started the conference, they were kind of blah, and now they've won, I want to say, 9 out of the last 10 in conference play. I want to say so. Yeah, they Northern
strong going to the conference tournament.
Yeah, I mean, while they're doing that,
win it though, when they win the conference, regular season championship, it's going to be real hard for teams to go into the Nutter Center and win a conference champion. Oh, wait a minute.
No. You're thinking of an older format that we don't do anymore.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was under the impression the Horizon League was still interested in sending the best teams to the tournament.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry. I thought that we're money.
Or anything like that, no.
Cleveland and Detroit get home tournaments for 3 years, and next year it goes to IUPUI because they basically win the genetic lottery of
being in Indianapolis.
They're basically the railroad tycoon heiresses, in that our daddy Horizon League, this is our town, so we tournament now. Fucking
or they're the Hilton family of the Horizon League. They're Paris Hilton.
Hey, congratulations, you're Paris Hilton. I hope you get checked STDs.
Oh, ouch! Yikes! Okay, I wouldn't have gone that far. Ugh. Okay, thank you for that.
I mean, if you told me that I had ooey pooey, I'd be going to the best TD clinic on Brady Street in Milwaukee to get myself checked out, because I don't want to have the ooey pooey.
I mean, considering how our teams have done this year, are we really in that much of a position to be? Oh yeah, I guess we are. Fuck it.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter. We recognize our teams suck.
Whatever. Yeah, screw it. Life is.
Care. We know. At least none of our teams threw shoes. We're fine. So yeah, it's interesting. And speaking of IUPUI, as we are, I mean, we're talking about it. IUPUI turns around, and I still don't get this. I mean, they beat Milwaukee on Thursday, effectively eliminating the Panthers from the tournament. But for reasons that escape me, I'm not sure where they're at right now. So, I mean, they are kind of a middling team, and they're kind of, and I don't know, it just seems to me that they're kind of, I don't know. So, and I don't know if but it doesn't matter. I mean, it doesn't matter. They get to host the tournament, so whatever. Next year and the 2 years afterwards. Which brings me actually to the tournament. This is actually, because you talked about a couple of things about the tournament format, about pretty much everything that's gone on, and I know I've talked about it previously, but I want to talk a little bit about some of the things that transpired in the week. Obviously, I wasn't on, that you were there, and one of them was the Dennis Felton thing. I think he's talking out of his ass on that one. Maybe.
I would hope so.
Well, see, here's the thing, though. The only person who would have been able to tell him about the format doesn't work there anymore.
Well, I'll
seriously.
Say this.
I mean, I get he's pissed off that he's not going to be in the tournament this month.
I was breaking news on a blog as a guy who just knows people and talks to people for years. So obviously their news can get around. The Horizon League is basically like the Swiss cheese of conferences. It's leaks everywhere. Mm-hmm. So I have no problem believing that Dennis Felton heard about it, and I also have no problem believing that Dennis Felton brought it up for a reason.
He brought it up for a reason because he's pissed off that his team's not going to be in it.
As he should be.
I know he should be, but he also, at the same time, you don't go 0-8 to start the conference schedule. You don't do that.
That's not a decision. That is
do better. You said it in a previous episode. Do better.
Yeah, do better.
Exactly.
At the same time, it's not what college basketball should be about. It's not what college basketball is. Everybody should still have a shot.
Well, truth be told, I mean, as you mentioned last week, this decision was more about maximizing your profit, maximizing your revenues. So technically, it kind of is all what college basketball is all about anymore. So, I mean, I really don't see the Horizon. I can't see the Horizon League going to a 4-team tournament format without getting some major pushback. I mean, I can't see it. I mean, I understand the problem with your one seeds get,
brought up so that preemptively, everybody looks at Jon LeCrone and says, "You're a fucking idiot," politely. "You're a fucking idiot. You should not be allowed to do this." And then he shuts up and doesn't do it. Nobody really thinks that was going to happen, but Dennis Felton, I am sure Dennis Felton, being a smart man as he is, brought it up so that he could preemptively stop it from happening. Which, to my point, I applaud Dennis Felton, and I think that he has earned himself a lifetime spot among the echelon of great Horizon League coaches, whether or not he wins. Thank you for doing that. I
wouldn't go that far, but sure.
I mean, I'm just saying.
I wouldn't go that far. Let's see what he does next year, and hope that he doesn't have another 20-loss season. But yeah, let's go with that.
Probably will.
I get the frustration. I mean, and honestly, to tell you the truth, I'm not. It's the second part is what I think. Not so much the Dennis Felton thing. I really thought that the Ken Bothof comments and the letter, I thought that did way more in terms of an impact than what Dennis Felton said.
Actually, it did, and I'm not lying when I say that this is going to be marked down that day. It's the day that that Northern Kentucky realized that the Horizon League, the grass was not greener here. Well. The Atlantic Sun. Don't get me wrong, the Atlantic Sun is not some great conference or anything. And it's probably not a better fit for Northern Kentucky anyways.
Yeah.
But now Northern Kentucky, as a program, as it grows, as it gets stronger, and as its fan base does not fall apart, they're sustaining it even through not making the NCAA tournament or, not being the number one team in the conference. They're sustaining the growth, which is something that Wright State also did. Wright State has been able to average more fans than everybody else. And
they've done that for decades too, which is amazing.
Right. It's the benefit of being in a market where there's only one other dog. All they have is UD there.
Yeah.
So they've got that benefit that the rest of us kind of have to fight through. But that's okay. Wright State does it perfectly fine.
Oh yeah.
It's just that they have the advantage, and
Wright State, of course, has some obviously other existential issues that we don't need to get into.
Been able to keep up, and they've been able to do well, and that's good for them. But Wright State, I feel like Wright State is in this spot where they know that maybe the pastures may seem greener somewhere else, but that they fit here. Yeah. And I think in Kentucky, having the sustained success, but not having the tradition of being with us and not having the ties to a couple of the schools, like a lot of the conference, I think that Northern Kentucky will start to actively look for a lifeboat out of this conference.
Well, sure.
And I'll always be a fan of Northern Kentucky. I was a fan of Northern Kentucky when they were making the transition. When I would speak with, the chancellor level at our school and a couple of the other presidents and chancellors when we were looking for schools, when they were looking for schools, and I was trying to figure out who the next team was. They were all very high on Northern Kentucky before they were in the Horizon League, and obviously everybody's high on them now. And Northern Kentucky's, if Ken Bothof is not taking an honest look at a conference membership for Northern Kentucky, then he's not doing his job.
Yeah.
And one thing that we have known about Ken Bothof, for as long as he's been an AD in his conference, which includes, longer than everybody else.
Yes,
right?
because he was at Green Bay prior to this.
He was Green Bay, and one thing we know about him is that he always does his job.
Yeah.
Ken Bothof is an excellent athletic director, and by being an excellent AD, he's looking.
Yep.
At the Atlantic
now, here's
10.
what I was thinking too, and I don't know if this is. And I was thinking about this looking into this, and I am really kind of. I'm not only looking at them, but I'm actually looking at some of these other potential schools out there that may be looking for new homes as well. I'm still talking about the Atlantic Sun right now, where Northern Kentucky was and Lipscomb is right now. Lipscomb was finally getting their program together. It looks like. I'm beginning to wonder, and I don't know if this turns into this would be viewed as more of a lateral move or maybe a slight step up. But remember, the Ohio Valley Conference has Murray State and Belmont in it right now. You add in a Lipscomb and a Northern Kentucky, that looks like they're a solid conference with Belmont and Murray State in there already. Can you imagine what that conference would look like with a Northern Kentucky in it? Is that something?
I would like to point out that Wright State is in the Ohio River Valley.
This is true. The problem with Wright State is I don't think Wright State.
They've got the connections with Youngstown and Cleveland, but we've also seen schools, and I realize I literally just brought it up that they've got the stronger connection and the tradition of being here. But you know who also had a strong connection and tradition of being here? Loyola and Butler.
Yeah, that's true.
So, and before them, Dayton and LaSalle and Evansville.
And look where all of them went.
They
all went to either the A-10 or the Missouri Valley. Basically, all of them went either to the A-10 or the Missouri Valley.
Honestly, I think the Atlantic 10 has an opportunity. They have the ability to kind of sit back and watch programs.
Yeah.
Chill. And I don't. Maybe they're happy with their membership and that's it. But I don't think that the A-10 would easily look to pass on adding a Northern Kentucky in the future if Northern Kentucky continues its sustained growth.
It's feasible.
I know that Northern Kentucky, because of the moves that the Horizon League makes, and maybe they would be looking to move on anyways. But you're giving them the car keys to get in the car and drive away.
Yeah,
they don't have to search for them. Ken Bothof has no reason to want to do any favors for Jon LeCrone.
No, of course not.
And Jon LeCrone, maybe he knows this is true and he doesn't care because he knows he can just go and get whatever school that's he knows that Southern Indiana's talking about going to Division I. We can go get them. Or maybe there's a school that thinks they can do better than the Atlantic Sun and north enough. Yeah, maybe we'll go get them. Or maybe we can maybe Robert Morris will come play basketball with us even though they've sucked for the last several years because they can't keep their players. They know. Jon LeCrone knows he can always get membership, and.
But honestly, with the change in this format, and if it's permanent, is that really would that really be true anymore? Hey, come to the Horizon League. We know we come to the Horizon League where there's an off chance your basketball team may not even make the conference tournament. I mean, I don't know what the ideal was behind that. I really think though that if you're at a point where you're being selective as hell about your own tournament, that is going to turn off literally everybody. Whether or not that's going to turn off everybody else in terms of wanting even to come here.
Themselves cash. They're saving themselves money. That's what it's about. And by the way, that's another reason you don't do a destination tournament, you jackwagons. You have it seed as the top seed will handle most of the hosting costs for the conference tournament. Oh my God, what a novel idea.
A novel idea that somehow
I wouldn't be surprised if Jon LeCrone in March of 2014 is sitting in a hotel in Green Bay and he's like, yeah, we gotta stop this. Just the comfort of some conference tools is more important than the success of the basketball product. That is every reason. He says, well, we're not gonna go add a team unless they have a baseball program, and then they go add Ooey Pooey, which doesn't have a
baseball program.
They say we're not gonna go hunting for a team. We're not gonna go hunting for a new tournament place if it's also the home arena of one of our teams, and then they go to the Farmers Coliseum. It's all about comfort. It's all about saving cash. It's all about Jon LeCrone and the Horizon League office. It's all about them. They are the constituents that they give a shit about. They don't give a.
That's incidentally a hell of a legacy to leave. By the way, that's outstanding.
They don't care about Bob McDonald or Jimmy Lemke. They don't care about Chad Knodel or Carrick Jones. They don't care about any of those people.
No, they don't.
That spend, they don't care about Drew McDonald. They don't care about John Brannon. They don't care about Ken Bothof. They don't care because they got to put themselves in a sweet spot where they can stay in their own homes and their own beds, and they don't have to spend the money on hotel rooms for the conference. It's about money. It's about saving money. It's about saving money as much as it's about legacy shopping, and it is about legacy legacy shopping. The change.
Yeah.
Stuff. Jon LeCrone.
And there you go. And that's exactly what did happen. Yeah, he may be legacy shopping, but it sounds like he ended up he bought a lemon, really.
Jon LeCrone, I know at some point what we say in this podcast gets to your ears, so let me just say this directly to you. Quit legacy shopping.
Please.
Quit money.
Please quit.
And admit that I'm right, and I'm not the only one. There are plenty of fans around the conference that told you the destination conference tournament was a stupid idea from the start, and we were all right, and Olympia was paying you off, and I get that, but give it up. You were wrong, and now you're not getting paid off. So stop screwing around, and don't make us all go to Indianapolis to go play in Ooey Pooey's home gym just because it makes it easier for you. If you really want to do what's best for this conference, you know exactly what to do. You need to bring back the original format that you created, that you brought in 0304. You brought that tournament format in, and you know what? It was genius, and it got you the legacy, and all you've been doing since is trying to harpoon it.
But that's the
all you've been doing is trying to harpoon it. You can point at adding Northern Kentucky and Valparaiso and Oakland all you want, and I agree that those were all great additions. But as I said last week, a trained monkey could have looked at those teams and gotten them in. And a trained monkey, when they got turned down by Valparaiso, wouldn't have said, "Oh, let's go get this team that finished second in the Mid-Con once and see that, well, they're probably going to be a good ad." Because Youngstown State has been nothing but trash for this conference ever since they were added. This was a conference that 2 years before Youngstown State came in, got 3 of its 8 members in the NCAA tournament. And guess what? That hasn't happened since.
Nope. and it probably never will happen.
It's because of you. Yep. These programs all have potential.
Yes.
Wright State. Cleveland State has potential.
Yes.
As a program. It does. It absolutely does.
Well, yes. Why do you think I get pissed off all the time? Because I see the potential, and they never realize it until, obviously, lately. I'm like, well, great. And what the, and I think I said this multiple times. Okay, great. Now you're winning games when it doesn't matter. You basically wasted my November through January. Thanks. Appreciate it. The potential is there, and that's what frustrates me. The potential is there, but they messed the bed. The same thing is true with literally every other school in this conference right now. And I will absolutely include Youngstown State in that right now, because Youngstown State for as many decades as they've been has been an anchor to this conference. I see in the last month and a half, I think they might have finally got it together. Yeah, I think they've finally built the foundation where they're not completely a train wreck.
If they win that last conference game, they're going to be 500. They might as well hang up a fucking banner for that. 500 in the horizon.
That is what. And by the way, that is one game. That would be one game away from the most wins they've gotten in the conference. I think that was, oh God, that was so long ago. I think it was 2007. I think it was the last time that's how long ago.
Mistake. And you know what? Jon LeCrone is if you look up in a definition of idiom, if you look at a dictionary of idioms, and you find out dying on a hill, Jon LeCrone is the guy he will die on a hill.
Oh yeah, I've known that. I've known that for 20 years. Of course he will, because he doesn't want to be wrong. He doesn't want to be wrong.
And I've had Horizon League people in the past, try and argue with me about Youngstown, the benefits of Youngstown State. Shit, it's okay. Guys, I get it.
Great. I've never been in a...
Jarvis was getting a paycheck from the Horizon League. Bill Potter is getting a paycheck from the Horizon League. These people were getting, these guys they're doing their job. They're trying to sell something that's unsellable. Jon LeCrone is not Brian Dennehy and Tommy Boy. He could not sell a ketchup popsicle to a lady in white gloves. And Youngstown State is a ketchup popsicle that's been dipped in shit. And you're trying to sell it to a lady in white gloves. It's not going to happen, or it never has happened. But thankfully for Youngstown State,
yes,
the good news for Youngstown State fans out there is that the commissioner and the conference leadership, and let's not let the executive council off the hook here. The chancellors and presidents have been apathetic toward their athletic programs for the most part in this conference, and that has led to these problems. But thankfully for Youngstown State, they are so far down on the list of problems that this conference has.
Yes. So true.
I've been at the point where I really just don't want to be in the conference anymore. I really don't. The Summit League may be a worse conference, but if Green Bay came to us and said you want to go to the Summit League, I would have to take a long time to think about it before saying no. I would definitely stay in the Horizon League, but at the same time, like this conference needs to be like purged of its and purge is such a terrible word because it has such bad connotations by being connected to bad movies and bad political genocide and all this stuff. But like the conference needs a purge of what ails it. So again.
And honestly, I don't. And if you saying that, I'm not entirely convinced Cleveland State shouldn't be involved in that. Shouldn't be one of the downs. Because I'm not shitty record notwithstanding. Nobody cares there.
Everybody's conference fits this conference.
Just about.
Unless Detroit figures out how to get into the MAAC or something. Like everybody belongs in this conference.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that Milwaukee is a better athletics program and deserves to be in the Missouri Valley Conference. We have done everything in our power to put the kibosh on our ability to get into a different conference.
Yeah.
Jon LeCrone helped that with Andy Geiger, but
made it worse.
It's still our fault.
But it's still your fault because it wasn't Andy Geiger notwithstanding, you ended up with what you ended up. And again, we're at least and Cleveland State is look at their situation. And by the way, I have no doubt that John Perry ended up at Cleveland State and basically spent 5 years, even longer than that. I think he spent 7 years here doing absolutely nothing other than balancing the books. And I can't be convinced that wasn't Jon LeCrone, doesn't have Jon LeCrone's handwriting all over it. Because Ronald Berkman, who was the was the president of Cleveland State, he knew nothing about freaking athletics. I mean, when he was at Florida International, when Isaiah Thomas was the coach, he introduced him as Isaiah Thompson. That's how much I think he knows about athletics. And they follow that up with a guy, Mike Thomas, who was so awesome, he basically did the same thing as John Perry did and then magically disappeared after a year and a half. Disappeared. And
there's some bedroom stuff, obviously, with Cleveland State's athletics program, obviously.
Oh, I don't doubt it at all.
The swimming program, and we know you guys just lost a couple of CADs. And
I'm not getting into that. I'm not going to get into that because that is a whole other funky situation that I don't think any of you want to.
We just have to go as far as to say that there is something going on.
Oh, there is. Oh, there absolutely is.
Yeah.
It is, but see, that's the other thing too. And the new president, Harlan Sands at Cleveland State, he knows what's up, and he's done fucking around with these guys. That is why Mike Thomas isn't here anymore. That's why he brought in Mike Alden to take a look at everything and say, okay, here's what needs to get fixed. Here's how you right this ship. And I hope I'm absolutely, I want to be right about this because I got burnt like toast with Mike Thomas. I am praying to God that Harlan Sands is the new president of Cleveland State is actually of the mindset that he understands that athletics is a core component of kind of their community outreach.
And
he's tired of screwing around with whatever tired ass shit he's been doing that's been going on in this school for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
So
need to be able to convince them. So really, at each of our schools, if you really want to get your athletic programs going, your basketball programs going, the first person that needs to be on board for you is your chancellor or your president, whatever your chief executive is. You can get that person on board. So,
incidentally, this is why this is probably, and again, going to Youngstown State, this is probably why it's a good thing that Jim Tressel is the president of Youngstown State right now.
Absolutely.
It is absolutely. I mean, he's into it too. I mean, I know he's involved. I mean, dude is like conducting the frickin' pep band and stuff, at games. I mean, who else does that? I mean, there's a guy who gets it, and theoretically, because obviously the last guy didn't, theoretically, because he's rooted in athletics himself, he's Jim Tressel. He's the guy who made Youngstown State football what it was. He's the guy who made he's the guy who brought a national championship back to Ohio State. So he gets it. He understands it, and hopefully in their case, and I really do think so, in their case, they will get to a point where they're not the big gigantic mistake mistake that Jon LeCrone made back in 2001.
And I would love that, but it really
I think they're on their way. I really do.
And I think Tressel might be a little bit about getting him on board with, hey, your basketball program is where you're going to get national recognition.
Exactly.
Nobody watches 1AA football as much as I love the NCAA tournament in college football. Nobody watches. So if you really want to get national recognition for your university and you want people to like see your university for what you see it to be, you should probably start investing in your basketball program. Of course, then again, they do spend money in recruiting and stuff. Sure. So, they're doing it.
And Tressel, and remember, Tressel was at Ohio State when they had to do a kind of had to revamp everything because they, during the Randy Ayers era, it wasn't so great. Jim O'Brien, they had some issues. So he kind of understood, but at the bottom, but he also saw the impact when that team was good, when Ohio State was making it back to the NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
I think they had to give one away because I think they had some NCAA violations. They had to give that one away, but, but still he understood and he continues to understand that. And I think I'd like to think that we have, and it goes back to, that executive council full of folks, and it's like, yeah, you guys have to get that. There needs to be more Jim Tressels.
Yes,
I know that'll appease all the Horizon League fans that also happen to be Ohio State fans. So I mean, but but it's true. But it's absolutely true. And
take advantage of it, turn people into Youngstown State fans and Ohio State fans second. But you have to get people into the
absolutely.
You have to get people to care.
Absolutely, and I think that's what and at least in the case of Youngstown State, it's starting to finally pay dividends because now it looks like they finally have gotten to the point where they have a solid foundation to move forward and again not be that anchor that they've been for 2 decades. They have that opportunity. I wish more schools would do that. I see that a lot more schools are doing that. And I hope, and it is my hope that next year that this whole idea of this stupid tournament format just finally goes by the wayside, and then we start thinking back to what worked in this conference.
Yes.
There has to be some soul searching, and if there isn't any soul searching, I'm with you, as you declared last week. Maybe it's time for LeCrone to finally hang it up.
Well, I don't think there's anything in the world that, barring him bringing back the format and saying forget the Farmers Coliseum idea.
Yeah.
Barring that, I don't think there's anything that could convince me that he shouldn't retire.
It's been a good run, man. You've been at the top of the helm of the Horizon League for the last 27 years. It's been a good run. Get your gold watch. Happy trails.
This is what I'll say. Make that your legacy. Understanding that what you did first was best.
Yeah.
Bring it back.
Absolutely.
And then ride off into the sunset and be done.
Exactly.
And then your
legacy
will be what that was that you understood what worked best for you and you kept it alive, as opposed to you brought it back to life, as opposed to as
opposed to trying to save a buck,
just stir it up, and being the guy that just didn't know when to quit.
Yeah,
I mean that's your legacy now. You've completely screwed it up because you feel like you have to keep evolving, you have to keep changing, you have to keep this constant revolution.
Don't do that. That's so stupid, though. Sometimes change isn't always good.
Yes.
Sometimes change isn't always good. Stop trying to chase it. Yes, the conference has had a couple of really bad years. This year isn't going to be any better.
Don't fix what ain't broke. It wasn't broken, so stop trying.
It wasn't. But in recent years, and again, it also probably comes back to the whole entire thing with this idea of this destination tournament thing that basically was kind of manufactured by Olympia, saying, "Hey, here's some money. We want to here's some money. We want to test this tournament thing out so we can kind of use it as a presentation to sell ourselves to the Big Ten or whatever." I mean, nothing wrong with that, but admit that that's what that was. Admit that you did it because somebody threw money at you, and you don't say no to that. You didn't want to say no to that. Now you're trying to chase something else, and I don't know what it is. I mean, now you're just chasing, okay, we're in Indianapolis now, and we'll just stay home. Cool. Like, okay, well, had this actually been, and don't get me wrong, again, had this happened before IUPUI had even showed up in this conference, had they opted to be in Indianapolis first.
Hell, I remember when
I would have loved that. That would have been great.
They wanted to do the destination tournament. We brought up specifically. They were on this podcast. We brought up that we should that why wasn't Farmers Coliseum that was recently renovated? Why wasn't it considered?
Yeah, but I think we know the answer to that is because again, Olympia was giving away cash. So I mean, right. So how do you say no to that?
Right.
I wouldn't say no to that. I don't begrudge them that. I didn't. I don't begrudge what they got. I don't begrudge what Olympia gets out of Motor City Madness, and I'm not going to begrudge them the fact that they are probably going to net at least one Big Ten tournament, maybe maybe an NCAA tournament, regional tournament, or the Frozen Four or whatever. That we know what they were doing, and that's fine. I mean, thanks for thanks for letting us be at Little Caesars Arena, which is a really great facility. Although no thank you for making us be at Joe Louis Arena, which was not. But, I mean, we get the idea, and I don't understand, but that ship has sailed. And the fact that the ship has sailed, and, I mean, let's also be realistic about the fact that this tournament format only probably happened because of the fact that they could only get 2 days at Little Caesars Arena. And so rather than go with the previous format and instead of having the entire tournament at Little Caesars Arena, they decided, hey, we're going to put this all, we'll put a couple of games at campus sites or whatever. They didn't want to do that. They said, okay, we're only going to have 3 rounds. We're only going to have 8 teams. First rounds at campus sites. And incidentally, that's not what happened. And remember too, that's also not what happened either. That's not how the format that worked. That's not how that happened. Yes, some of the first round games, I believe, were at campus sites, and then the rest of them were at the site of the first seed. And they didn't want to do that this year. So we don't know what's going to happen next year. This format this is not a sustainable format. And this is a format that is going to deter anybody from ever wanting to come here. Money or no money, I don't care. That's a deterrent. I'm not jumping into a tournament. I'm not going into a conference where my tournament is only taking 8 teams. That's just not going to happen. But it's also going to make other teams in the conference that do have some mobility think about leaving. And that's just the bottom line. And we've seen it before, and we will see it again if they don't kind of right the ship. And I don't know if they will, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where we're at. So we can kind of wrap up the show here. And next week will probably be more of the same, except we'll have a good idea of who exactly is going to be hosting those first round tournaments. And well, it's not going to be Cleveland, and it's not going to be Cleveland State or Milwaukee. That'll be fun. All right, so that's going to wrap it up for us. As always, you can find episodes of the Horizon Roundtable on sportshacks.com, HAX.com. You can find our podcast wherever your favorite podcast app is. I mean, Jimmy, I know you use Pocket Cast. I use TuneIn and Google Play. And we're on iHeartRadio and Spotify. So and of course you can look at it, find us on on Alexa or Google Home or whatever. So that's going to do it, and thank you very much for listening.
Take care, everybody.